I know this is kind of a complicated thing, is because over the years, there's been so many cutbacks and so many cuts to mental health services, and really, unfortunately, the police have to pick up on those things, and that's really not your area of expertise, unfortunately. Um, how do you feel about the call for defunding? And I'm going to clarify what defunding is. It is not abolishing the police. That's not the concept. It's removing resources to alleviate some of the other things that you're dealing with that you shouldn't have to be dealing with. So like mental health, like making sure that people get what they need, to make the job easier. And we're not filling up the jails and prisons of mental health anymore. So how do you, it's complicated, and I totally get it. It's definitely a complicated subject.
Yeah, but it's a really relative subject, and I think it is tied to some of the work that we're doing nationally, even around our apology. Listen, all of us have to actually reflect on who we are. Our organization should always be reflecting on what we're doing. The whole, defund movement, reallocate, whatever you want to call it. Fundamentally, actually, it's very much aligned with a larger dialogue in our community as to who does what and who leads when. And so, from a defunding perspective, I don't think it's as simplistic to take money from the police budget and flow it into other areas. What I actually look at it as, how do we refund? So how do we look at our system and refund areas that over many, many years for different reasons have been stripped, have been lean, have been, focus has changed. The Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and as their president and even as the chief of Waterloo, I firmly support a new intervention approach to mental health in our country. Again, this is no criticism, but our judicial system was not equipped to deal with the complexities of mental health, the complexities of addiction. It wasn't designed to deal with those issues. It's a very traditional, dated colonial system that was never intended to actually deal with acute care intervention, individuals who are experiencing vicarious trauma from their childhood. Our correctional system was never designed to treat those who need health care. And even, we see some announcements from provincial and federal governments about investing in mental health in our correctional system and our judicial system. Those are all great things. Don't get me wrong. They're all positive steps forward. But I think we got to pause for a second and look at, how do we land where we landed? To your point, Jerry, is how do we actually land here? We landed here because, maybe in 1995, a bunch of decision makers said, well, if we cut back here, it's okay. Like, the police are 24/7, 365. They can pick up some of that work. And we probably had police leaders at those tables that said, yeah, we can pick up some of the work. Don't worry about it. We understand the pressures you're under. All well-intended. Like, all of it was well-intended. Like, again, I'm not criticizing our grandparents. Our grandparents made decisions that they felt at the time may have been the best or may have been fiscally wise. But when you look at some of the issues we're dealing with, individuals that need acute care intervention, when we look at victims of sexual assault and survivors of survivors of sexual assault, where they haven't had proper community resources, where they haven't actually had advocates, haven't had support, and are dealing with this trauma. So even from a policing perspective, moving to trauma-based interviews, trauma-based training, trauma-based education, having a service dog in our police facilities across the nation to bring care and empathy, and I do believe we have many members that are super empathetic and caring, but the system itself, it needs a refresh. It needs a reboot. I do believe that the one good thing of the pandemic is our court systems need to modernize, use of technology, how we deal with issues. But there's a lot to be learned even from our Indigenous friends around reconciliation and restorative justice and diversion. Think about even our own personal lives. We've all made mistakes. Think about how maybe those mistakes have been made. Generally, people respond better to compassion, to empathy, to care, to love, to support. People go, okay, geez, I'm sorry, like, versus, hard discipline or those things. Like, I think, the world is evolving and changing. We need to grow with it. Mental health is one of those issues. I do believe that there's great work happening by CMHA, and the Canadian Mental Health Commission is trying to do great things. We have a lot of police intervention models where police officers are paired up with mental health clinicians, and there's a trend, particularly in Ontario, to move to a mental health care worker in the comm center, in the 911 comm center, for triaging calls. But still, at this point, after 5 o'clock at night, what mental health services are available other than at the emergency room? And so the police get dispatched, now in big, large centers across Canada. Generally now, thankfully, a mental health clinician may be with the police officer to bring about different approaches. But I do think that kind of goes to our position around decriminalization of simple possession of hard illicit drugs. Nobody woke up in the morning, nobody had a career path to say, I'm going to be an addict. Nobody woke up to say, I want to be mentally unwell. There's different things that take us down those road. I see it, even in my own personal life, friends, family, colleagues, that, just something happens. There's maybe a trigger. Maybe they just, have built up this sense of, issues within them that they've never coped with, or have, sort of everything just kind of blows. And you have to appreciate that. I mean, gone are the days where you can kind of go like, well, suck it up. Like, I don't even know if that was ever appropriate. I don't know if that was ever appropriate in time, but that was the reality of where we are. But so I think, I guess the whole concept of defund, or I call it refund, I think we need to sit down. We need leadership. We need all levels of government working together, municipal, provincial, and federal. We got to stop the division. We have to stop some of the political partisanship. I get that's what drives democracy. But if we want a true change, let's get everybody to the table. Let's shed organizational ego. Let's shed all the different pieces, and actually let's have a conversation that puts the citizen at the forefront of the conversation. Because far too often, this is about organizations. It's about, I sort of have a saying internally that every decision comes down to three things: power, control, and money. And let's get away from those things. So my whole comment around who leads when, let mental health actually manage and lead these calls for service, or maybe it's paramedics or community paramedicine. Yes, there'll always be an element of policing where we go, because there may be risk assessment, self-harm, harm to others. Everybody, I think, in society understands that, but not the primary person. The poor individual who finds themselves homeless, on a street, who may be having a bad day, and is yelling and hollering, and it scares, maybe somebody walking on the street or somebody on the street. And then the police get called. I mean, is that really the best use of our resource? And then my only other comment on this is, as a society, how desensitized we've come. Jerry, time in Toronto and in Waterloo every night, there's about 500 homeless people, which may be hard to believe in a community that, has 3 post-secondary institutions, is sort of the tech north of Canada. We have a homelessness issue. And what kind of worries me as a community leader, and I don't consider myself, maybe I've softened with age or something, but you ever watch citizens simply carry on their normal day and walk by somebody that is homeless, somebody that is sleeping on a grate? I just ask myself, when did this become just part of society that, we just accept it? Or we see institutions that actually, over the subway gate, put, physical barriers so people don't sleep in front of their institution on the subway grate where the heat's coming up. How did we become a society of who we are? And I think there's an opportunity for a reset. I think there's an opportunity for a future. And let's do it in mature, good public policy. Let's not do it out of punitive approaches, and I'll use the example. Well, in 1968, those police leaders were bad and they made a stupid decision. Yes, we understand that, our decision wasn't great. let's move. We want to reconcile, we want to apologize, but we want to look in the future. And I think that's the big piece, Jerry. I think that all of us need to actually dig in deep and lean into the current societal issues we're facing and build a better Canada. I mean, I think we all have to come to the table. We can't leave anybody out.
Well, and I think our governments have to stop doing this. Pointing at everybody else.
Yeah, I try to manage the politics on any sort of media interview, but I want to be pretty clear. I mean, I think all levels of government need to actually work together and get through some of the different ideologies and philosophies and figure out what's best for our communities, what's best for our country. I still think Canada is a great place to live. I still think we've got amazing things. I still think our future is bright. But let's tackle some of our, history. Let's tackle some of our overt systemic barriers, systemic discrimination, systemic racism. Let's actually look at a renewed multiculturalism. We celebrate it a lot, and we often say diversity is our greatest strength. But let's actually back it up, and let's actually move forward.
Let's walk the walk. Right. Well, and I think the other thing people have to remember is the police officer is still human. I think people tend to forget that, they're still human. So I think that's part of the problem, but that's just me. Well, Chief Larkin, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to kind of go down this road with us a little bit and kind of talk about that. And I think it's really important that we keep this conversation open, and hopefully your community consultations and stuff as you move forward are more engaging, and you make progress that you're looking for. It sounds like you're on the right path.
Well, thanks so much, Jerry. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I think it's important to have these conversations and dialogue. I want to thank you for inviting me actually to be a part of this interview and to be part of your show. It's much appreciated, and I do want to wish everybody a happy 2021. And I do believe, there's parts of me that wishes it was 2022, but as we slide into the month of February, we are celebrating Black History Month. I think there's also a great opportunity for us to reconcile with our Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. But we're also in the month of love. We're celebrating Valentine's Day and all those different pieces. And I just encourage, all of your viewers and all of us to actually, at some point in the month, whether it's Valentine's Day or not, to just pause for a second and go, hey, let's actually share the love. Let's give the love, let's feel the love, and let's fire it up for a better 2021. So, Jerry, thanks so much. I appreciate being on your show.
No, we greatly appreciate it. And just so you know, I am looking for husband number 8. So keep that in mind. Anyway, thank you so much. And of course, thank you viewers for joining us. Sorry, Lady Raven wasn't available today. She's on special assignment somewhere up north. I can't reveal where, because I don't actually know, but that's another story altogether. And anyway, make sure we can't make change if we don't have the conversation, and never underestimate who you are and the voice you have, pigeons. And we'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye, pigeons.